Hi there, this is Frank Klesitz with Vyral Marketing, and welcome to another client interview with Brad Cohen, one of our great viral clients who's relatively newer to real estate in a small town of 55,000 in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Recently named, right, Brad, one of the top small towns to live. Is that correct?
Yep, that's true. Best small town in the country to live.
Awesome. So you're going to hear Brad's story today about how he's about 3 years in real estate and got involved with viral marketing and is building a database. Very reasonable transaction size. I think in 2017 you sold about 27 homes, average price point of 189, and you like to get your transactions up to about 35 transactions for 140,000 GCI. So you're just starting your journey on the way up of building your business, which is great.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to talk about today is about why you hired Vyral, how you're implementing the Vyral marketing plan, how you're building your database, how you're staying in touch, the benefits of that, and I'll even maybe give you some advice on maybe what you should do for the next steps as you build your business.
Sure.
Right? So I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. And for those of you watching, if you'd like a copy of the video marketing plan to kind of put this interview into context of exactly what is Brad doing, you can go to the homepage of our website. That's getvyral.com, V-Y-R-A-L, as I'm sure you know. Getvyral.com. On the homepage, you can get a copy of the video marketing plan right on the homepage and read that. It's a short read, about 20 pages. And basically just goes through how to reconnect with your neglected database, how to build a database, how to communicate effectively. We'll talk about that today, what you're doing now, maybe what you're doing before, Brad. Mm-hmm. And then how to prioritize follow-up with the people who are engaged with you, which you can track all that online, which is cool. And just calling cold prospects that aren't really engaged with you. So all that's up in the video marketing plan. You can check that out. All right. So Brad, you ready for your interview, buddy?
Sure thing.
Awesome. And how's my microphone? I'm good on my microphone, right? I got the right one. Good. Yeah, sometimes I go through these and realize I'm talking to my webcam doesn't sound very good and finally have my headset. Okay, so let's just start back to, let's just get to the Vyral story. This is a big investment for you. $2,000 for a build fee, $550 a month at your level of production. That's a very large percentage of your income to spend of all the different things that are pitched to you for marketing.
Right.
Okay. So can you walk me through, and I'm not looking for a sales pitch here of Vyral, but I really want to know your decision of all of the options to spend your money when you're starting out in your business at this production level. You decide to give it to us.
Sure.
Why?
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 I just believe in what you all do. It's a different approach to the email marketing. It's all inclusive. And I like the way that you all focus on the idea of bringing your database back in. And the power of video is just unbelievable. I kind of stumbled into that towards the end of last year where I tried one promotional video that I did just kind of like a who am I type situation. And I got a really good response to it. And so I was like, man, this video thing, this is clicking, people. And I even just did kind of an honest assessment of myself. Like when I'm on social media and stuff, I'm like, what am I actually looking at? Do I take the time to read the articles? No, not as much as I just watch the videos. And thinking about that and thinking about the demographic that I work with, I was like, man, there's definitely something to this. Got introduced to the company and I was doing what attracted me to it was the done for you component of it. I don't have any problem hopping on and being a part of video, but doing the editing and clipping those things together and prepping and coming up with content ideas and all this other stuff was going to just be a lot. And so the approach of, we're going to do it for you and we're going to make it easy on you. So you hop on, you record, you talk about the things you're talking about on a regular basis anyway. And we're going to record it, we're going to cut it together, and we're going to put it out for you. It just made a lot of sense to me. I was already doing a pretty substantial investment into an alternative company for marketing that was this took it one step further, and the return is that much better doing the video. So that was the real attraction, was the video component to it.
But I even want to go back. I mean, when you start selling real estate, you're pitched many different philosophies, religions, if you will, approaches of how you go about getting business. You could have gone down the route of, I'm going to put it on the pay-per-click online for buyer leads, or I'm going to give all my money to Zillow, or I'm going to go do farming and spend money on that. So we maybe walk through like just your general approach of why you really kind of chose, you had a lot of affinity toward the whole database and building relationships method. in contrast, maybe some other methods you've been pitched on of how people make money in real estate. What were
Sure.
some other? Give me some background on that.
The main thing is I'm in a really small town. You mentioned we have 55,000 people, 23 of them, I think, are college students. And so the business community is very small and interconnected.
Oh, so 23,000.
Are college students. Yeah. So we're
wow. What's the university? I should know this. What's the university?
James Madison.
James Madison. So half the town's James Madison students. It's a college town.
Yep, it is.
Okay. Got it.
And so the business community is really small and interconnected. And so starting out in an industry where I didn't know pretty much anybody, I started when I was in college, that I basically went to some people who had some experience in the business in our particular area. I'm like, what do you do to get business around here? And I basically started just throwing spaghetti at the wall, like, okay, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. And the more and more I got specific and looked at the metrics for my business of where things were coming from, the people that I liked to work with the most, and also the people that were the most, that were seeking me out, were all coming as warm referrals. And it was just, I met somebody and they knew somebody, or I built a sincere relationship with somebody and then they knew somebody. And so seeing how that interconnectedness worked in our community and how it started to kind of perpetuate the business made more and more sense. And so now I focus pretty much entirely on my database marketing. I don't do any sort of buying leads or anything like that. The only thing I really invest in outside of my database is relocation. And so I focus all my attention pretty much on my database. And what I found in getting started was just that investing in the community and investing in the relationships in the community was the best thing that I could have done. It wasn't a, hey, let me build a relationship with you. Can you send me business? Can you send me business? It was just, I'm going to get to know this person and I'm going to see how I can help them first. And by doing so, it just kind of got me connected with the right people in the community, the people who you want to have a good reputation with. And then things just kind of started to snowball from there.
That's great. I'm guessing you went to the college there.
I did. Yeah, that's why I was here.
Yeah. So, so a college student graduates and goes into real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You start with a database of a bunch of your college buddies.
Yep.
How did you start your database just out of college to start selling real estate? I mean, a lot of people be very intimidated by selling to their college friends. I mean, can you give me some insight to that?
Sure. I mean, if you look at my database, a large component of it is friends from college. And I think that's a big part of my sphere, even though a lot of people don't do the route that I did where I chose to stay in the college town. A lot of people go to different areas, but people in my demographic are buying houses. Millennials are the most active in the real estate market right now. And so I was just like, if I can be the person that they're calling to have a conversation with, at a bare minimum, I can refer them to an agent in another market. And then I get a little kickback out of it. So that's the value of having that in the database.
Let me be clear. You had no problem calling up all your college friends and asking, hey, do you know anyone who's looking to buy or sell a home?
I did. That wasn't really the script that I took.
Tell me the script.
The script was really just about education. I bought a house the first year out of college, and I did a very, very low down payment. I got into it as easy as I possibly could because I saw the value. I was just like, man, if I'm going to throw away $1,200 or more on rent, I might as well buy a house. And so I kind of had that. I started having those conversations with college friends. I was just like, oh, you're going up here. How much are you going to be paying in rent? And they start talking about, oh, I'm paying $2,000 for one room in a 3-bedroom apartment, referencing my old heritage in Northern Virginia. But you've got people going to New York, you've got people going to New Jersey, Florida, Northern Virginia, all these different places, and they've got these huge, huge amounts that they'd be pitching into rent. And I was just like, have you thought about buying a house? And it really just made me realize how many of them didn't know anything about it. And so I kind of just started having those conversations saying, hey, you only really need 3% nowadays to get into a down payment. Here's a little bit about this. Here's the cost of renting versus cost of owning. Here's the benefits one way or the other for those types of situations. Actually, one of the first major marketing initiatives or get-togethers I did was just a presentation to my old business fraternity in college that was just postgraduate housing. And my approach with it with my friends was not like, hey, you know, somebody who's looking to buy or sell real estate. It was just like, hey, have you thought about it? And do you know anything about it? Is there anything I can do to help you? I've actually, one of the videos that I've wanted to do for a while and haven't gotten around to doing is, how can me, your college friend, help you as a real estate agent? And so I just kind of started loosely marketing to those people. And
Brett, I have to ask you, how does a college graduate at your age, like, just start going into direct sales of real estate and start just calling all their friends and having conversations like that? You know how rare that is?
It's, I don't know. I mean, I don't hear a lot of people doing my story.
No, there's not.
I was fortunate to stumble into it beforehand, that I had a background in student housing, and that's kind of where I got into real estate. Was I was working for a corporate housing company doing property management and leasing, and I recognized that I was pretty good at selling houses, quote unquote, and selling the product. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this could be a transition. Started doing a little more research. Had the background in property management, so I made the jump over to conventional property management. Started selling from there too. So basically my database when I started was college friends and tenants that I had put into property. And then it just began growing into the greater business connections.
And you did it. You did a darn good job, pretty much just through you talking to people and making your calls and reaching out. You know, your first, what was it, last year? It was your second year in the business. Sold 27 houses. That's incredible.
Yeah. First year was 28. Great. And second year was 27, a little higher volume the second year.
28 homes in your first year. Good for you.
It was better than I could have expected.
Yeah, that's great. So then you get involved with some coaching services to help you kind of figure out what's next. After just kind of reaching to your warm market, what was like the next thing? Let's kind of work your way up to the things you invested in, the things you did before you got to Vyral. Then we'll get into the Vyral marketing plan, how you're doing well with that. But what was like the next thing after I just need to make my calls, call my people, see what homes I can sell? What was your first major investment of money besides some coaching guidance? That was
I mean, the first major investment that I did was email marketing services from a different company that did kind of a similar, like, done for you type approach. And
stay in touch.
Yeah, exactly.
So you knew that would bring value to you to stay in touch. Why did you know that?
I read a lot of marketing articles, but also, I mean, when you get into the business, everybody talks about how people just forget their real estate agent. And I kind of made it a personal goal of my own to not be the agent who gets forgotten. And when I looked at the amount of business that can be done in my market and the percentage of business being done by different people, I was like, there's no reason that I can't get a big chunk of this pretty quickly. And I just kind of made it my goal to be the front of mind person when people were thinking about real estate. And so that whole personal branding was kind of the most important thing to me. And I think in our community, like I said, your personal brand is married to your professional brand. Everybody knows stuff about people. And so kind of being present in the community, active in the community, and caring about the community, that made me visible. And so then it was just a matter of, how do I implement my professional services and make that visible for people, or keep that front of mind for people that I have good relationships with.
Great. So how many people would you say you have in your database now as far as real relationships? I know we have like emails. Like, how many people would you say are like in your real warm market, your Mets, people that you know?
I would say my database, my total database is probably 2,500 people, roughly. And of those people, the people that I would say are familiar or would get something from me and know exactly who it is probably 1,000.
That's pretty good, Brad.
A lot of
1,000 people that know you?
A lot of people I went to college with, like I said. And then I would say of that, if you were to break that 1,000 down even further to people I have good, strong relationships with, or have done business with me, or have referred business to me, I'd say that's probably 250, 300 people.
That's incredible. Great. All right. So you sign up for Vyral Marketing. You start doing the videos. First question, what are you doing to build your database? So tell me how you add subscribers, how you're getting people into your list so they get to know you and they're on your newsletters that we send and they see your videos. What are you doing to build your database every day?
I'd say the number one thing is just being out and about and visible. I do a lot of community service. I'm in the Rotary Club in town. And I just make a conscious effort to talk to people and get to know people. I do some open houses. I do some online marketing. But really the biggest thing for me is being visible in the community and meeting people in the community. Be that networking events, be that just community events, be that out at the bar. You know, it's kind of funny. I joke with people. I've sold just as many houses from going to the bar as I have from doing just about any other marketing initiatives.
You'd be surprised how much I built Vyral when we started just from that activity.
Yep.
But there's more to the story than that, because you're just not going out and meeting people. You're actually like maybe writing down their names and getting their business cards. Then you bring it back to your office.
Mm-hmm.
You put them in your database. You put them in CRM. You probably send a little email, nice to meet you. Can you go through that? There's a little bit more to this than just randomly meeting people and then poof, you're off. Like you're actually having to capture and bring them in and market to those individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
I wish I could say I have a really systematic approach to doing that. Unfortunately, my personality type is not super systematic, so that's something I'm working on. But I think the biggest thing is just the more and more I hear from why people are seeking me out, it's twofold. They had a warm referral, meaning somebody sent them my way, or they saw me online, they saw my reviews online. And so having clients that really like you makes it a lot easier to have other people want to come your way. And then the other thing that's interesting that I hear from people a lot is you just answered the phone or you called me back. And that was refreshing. I was like, I mean, that's just doing my job.
Brad, I got to go deeper. I don't believe you. Just by you just being yourself, you just fall into 27 homes in your first year.
I wish I had a better explanation. I think the biggest thing, like I said, is just doing right by people. Yeah. If you do right by people, it makes it easier to do business with you.
Well, let me ask you this question. I'm trying to find some secrets here. All right. Do you track maybe how many attempts and how many contacts, how many dials, how many appointments, maybe those numbers every week?
I'm not an aggressive cold caller, if we're being honest. I track.
Or even just talking to people.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little bit of a tracking system. I use Top Producer as my CRM, but it's more about keeping track of tasks for me than it is about keeping track of people. The biggest thing for me is just making sure that if I haven't communicated with somebody in a long time, that I have a reason to do so. So whether that's reaching out to them and saying, hey, let's get a coffee, let's get a lunch, or, hey, how's the house? Can I come see it? That's a great one for past clients, especially when it was like a first-time buyer and they had all these projects that they wanted to do when they moved in the house. It's just like, oh, hey, let me see what you've done. But I think what I've found is actually since I've even started Vyral, I have more of a reason to call people. It's like, hey, I saw you watch my video. What'd you think? Was this something that you found you had value? Was this something that you would share with somebody? Is this something you'd watch again? It gives me a good reason to be in contact with people. But I also like to consider myself a professional visitor. I drop in on people. I don't like picking up the phone and calling people. That's the honest truth. I really don't. I like going to see people. I like the FaceTime. And so video in particular gives me that FaceTime, even if it's not, reciprocated.
I love how Vyral is just a natural extension of who you are.
Yeah.
Your video. It is. So let's move into that. So it sounds to me like you are just a connector.
That's what I try to do.
Go out and you help people. Sounds good to me. So now you're talking to people, you're putting them in your list. I mean, I'm assuming like these 2,500 people, how did you even get their contact information in the first place? Was that just from the normal exports of your existing CRMs I'm just trying to get something tangible.
Social media has been a big part of it for me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends on Facebook. If we're being honest,
you just started marketing to everyone you've ever met ever.
Pretty much. Like I said, I was
Did that
throwing
freak you
spaghetti at
out
the
at all
wall.
when you wanted to start sending out videos to literally everyone you ever met?
Not really. I mean, it was like, I kind of took a look at it and I was like, well, if they don't like it, they can unsubscribe. But I haven't really had that many people unsubscribe. So I'm kind of like, okay, then there must be something to it. And it's just,
You have a natural way of handling a lot of limiting beliefs people have to do this,
it's
and it
just,
hasn't really affected you.
I mean, you aren't going to get anywhere unless you try. I'm a very firm believer in you guys spend money to make money. I don't think anybody else in my market's doing anything similar to this. And that's part of the reason I think it's working out for me. And then,
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, it's just generally being a likable person, doing right by people and getting the job done, doing it well. Then you're going to, it all just kind of perpetuates. It's that whole personal brand is really powerful.
That's good, man. So let's talk about now. You have to actually record your topics. So at Vyral, we give you ideas and we try to coach you on ideas. But at the end of the day, no matter how painless we make it, either by interviewing you on a webcam, you still got to sit in front of the camera and say something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So why don't you tell me first, maybe how do you come up with some ideas of what you want to share that's relevant? Because you said you get good engagement with your list.
Mm-hmm.
How do you come up with good topic ideas of questions you want to answer in your videos or things that you want to bring up that you want to share with your database?
I have a running list that I keep in my phone basically of whenever I get a question more than 2 or 3 times that's not like, how's the market? Which is, of course, the first question that every real estate agent gets when you say you're a real estate agent. But
Yeah.
Whenever I get a question from somebody that I hear a couple of times, I make a note of that. I'm like, oh, this could be a video. Or this could be something that more and more people would want to know about. And then the other thing is, I do try to ask people when I see, I mean, I make it a habit now when I see that people have checked out my video or when they make a comment, I'm like, yo, what'd you think? What do you think of the content? Is that something you felt was valuable? What would you suggest? I mean, is there something else that you would like to know about? Then in addition, just kind of keeping an eye on the news. What are the topics that people are talking about as it pertains to real estate? And then the biggest thing for me is just trying to add value, not just something that's, oh, what are the colors that are in this season or something silly that is just, kind of clickbait. I'd rather be adding content that people are going to learn from. I would say I'm kind of like a perpetual learner. And so I'm always seeking out new information for myself. And so I'd like to think there's probably more than one person in the world like me. So as a result, I like to add substantive content that people are going to find valuable. And if like I get, candid feedback from people that says, hey, I thought that was dumb, I'll be like, okay, so we'll abandon ship on that topic. Haven't had that yet, but I expect that I would. So
how much time does it take you to record your videos and to set aside time to do all this?
10 to 15 minutes.
A month?
Yeah, typically it's it may be up to 30 minutes depending on how many outtakes I have, because every once in a while I'll botch the speech. Shout out to Bree for putting up with me. But it's very quick and easy. I mean, it really is. It's just, the content's ready. It's just talking. And I think the thing that kind of freaks a lot of people out about video is like, oh my gosh, it's a camera in front of me. Oh my gosh. I'm like, all I'm doing is talking the same way I'd be talking to somebody right across the way from me. So that's kind of the way I approach it with my videos. It makes it go pretty naturally and pretty easily.
So simple, Brad. So simple. It is. All right. So these, you're building your database by going out and being yourself and hopefully adding them to your contact list. You're setting aside 15, 30 minutes a month to record 2 short, helpful videos on a webcam just like this. And then we do all the processing.
Yep.
So then you get a list of all the people who recently opened or engaged with your videos. Tell us about that list and how you use that and how that may help you in your business.
The first one that I got, like I said, I've only done a couple of videos, so I've only got a couple of response lists up to this point. But the first one I got, I was just shocked to see who was engaging with it.
That is always very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you look at it and you go, wait a second. Okay, so that person, I would have expected that person to open it. That person, I'm sure they opened it and watched it. Like my mom, for example, was on that list. But then I had an attorney friend in town who I hadn't talked to in a while. I was just like, oh, well, wait a second. He not only did he open it, but he was clicking, like he was watching it, and gave me a reason to call the guy and say, hey, what's been going on? What do you think of my video? How's things going? How's things at the law office? Just, it gave me a reason to get in contact with that person, and also gave me a follow-up to get in contact with that person. Mm-hmm. So something else that I like about Vyral is there's that kind of accountability component to be like, hey, we're going to give you these leads. It's up to you to call them. And it, like I said, it just because anybody who's clicking on your video, anybody who's watching your video has a reason to be doing so, whether they're just watching to gain information, or whether they're watching because they are thinking about buying or selling a home, or they know somebody who is, or, either way, it's the FaceTime that you're getting with those people, and they have a reason for watching. So then you have the same reason to follow up with them.
So would it be safe to say that, have you done any cold calls to sell any of these houses?
Not cold. Not really. I tried doing the like expireds and for sale by owners a little bit. I actually found that print mail worked better in my community, which was kind of funny. But I just, for my approach, it just hasn't really been a whole lot of cold calling. I like to be in the position where people want to call me.
So how is that? So in your write-up, we have about maybe a third of your business comes from your database. What are your business sources from your list? How do you get your business? What would you say are your pillars of leads that come in?
It's my sphere, or referrals from my sphere is the big part of it. Online marketing is another component of it, and falling into that is social media. It's just people who hit me up because they saw me on social media, or because they saw my reviews or something like that. So,
but they're seeing your videos. They're seeing you.
Correct.
It's not like some unbranded ad.
Correct. Yeah. So it's affiliated with me. So that's tied to my brand. And then the third, like I said, I do a lot of relocation stuff too, because I chose to be in my community. So I've got a nice little story to tell with that, and I can connect with people as a result. And that's something that my company's preferred broker. So we do that. But those are my three biggest sources of business. And yeah. I do have stuff now and again that pops in that was a web lead, or, I met somebody, and honestly, actually, I'd say open houses probably end up falling into my sphere as opposed to actual like generating business, because I just meet people. But those are the three big, the four big pillars for me, I would say, are my sphere and marketing to my sphere, my database, referrals from them, out of market referrals through the relocation network, and then just general branding online via my social media and just my online reviews.
That's great, man. So, as a percentage of your GCI, this is a good chunk of change with us. Mm-hmm. There's no question.
It's a very good return on investment.
That's my next question. How do you know that?
It's very early in the stages for me to be able to actually put a metric to it. But I'll tell you a little anecdote. Here's how I've been able to tell is I can track the views on Facebook, which is very easy for me to see, and see that that every time I post a video, it performs
people
better.
Actually watch it.
Yeah,
that's good.
Exactly. So I know that there's people looking at it. So that's a good step in the right direction. I get a response report showing, these many people opened it, these many people clicked on it and actively engaged with it. So that you have a reason to get in contact with those people. But the main metric for tracking the ROI for me is the number of people who have actually come up to me in person, or texted me, or picked up the phone and said, hey, got your video, or watched your video. I like that, or this, that, the other. I can say I have one friend that is closing on a house next week that I may or may not have ended up selling her the house because she saw one of my videos. I think we talked previously that I was a real estate agent, but just a skydiving friend. And
skydiving, huh?
That's a hobby. Yeah. And she hit me up. She said, hey, I'm buying a house, and it was out of my market, but she was like, I know what I want. And do you want to be a part of the transaction? I was like, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do it. But I think she saw my video on Facebook, and that's why she thought to talk to me about it. So I guess we could say that that was an immediate return on investment. Well, I think it's probably loosely connected, but I'll continue to track those things, and I do track those things. Every deal that I close, I know exactly where those people came from. Even if it's arbitrary, I still keep track of those metrics.
So there's probably less expensive options than us with software for video and hiring somebody on contract online, maybe overseas to do this. Like why our firm to execute this when you may be able to find it less expensive other places?
Great question. It is the delivery of the product. I mean, you all make it so easy for me to not have to think about it. It's appointment goes on the calendar. Okay, I'm shooting videos that day. It's an hour block on my time calendar in case I want to shoot extras or get, a couple months ahead or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it goes as an hour block of my time of my time in a month. I know I'm shooting that day. And then I know that it's going to get prepped and it's going to go out. It becomes almost a mindless thing to me until I get the lead response. It's like I send a quick click that says, yes, this is good to go out. Or, hey, can you minorly tweak this? But it's almost like a mindless thing that is so effective for me. It's so easy to use. And like I said, I mean, I had experimented with other video stuff previously. I thought, hey, I could probably do this, I could probably do that. But all of the editing and everything else that goes into it, the time wasn't worth the investment at that point. I'd say, okay, well, if it's going to cost me this much time, or it's going to cost me this much and this much time, I'd rather go the route of it's going to cost me less time because I can then allocate that to something I can do that's a far more income generating activity for me than editing video or something silly like that. As much as it is fun for me to pursue a different skill, I'd rather be applying the ones that I'm good at.
That's great.
So I can't speak higher, honestly.
There's one piece of what we do, what would you say is the most valuable to you that you really enjoy the most?
Active communication. I think the one thing that gets missed in the sea of softwares and stuff like that people pitch to you is proactive follow-up. And I haven't had that with Vyral at all. It's like everything I know has been proactively communicated.
You've had proactive follow-up.
I'm sorry?
You've had proactive follow-up.
Exactly. Yeah. Like from my onboarding coordinator who was in contact with me the day I signed up and put me through the 30-day process to shooting videos to getting a box from Amazon right away that I was going to get my materials. I didn't have to worry about, is this going to be effective, or was this a good investment, or am I working with the right type of company at this point? And then the other thing, like I said, I mean, part of the reason for me was just y'all's approach to give first is very in line with my own personal branding, and my approach to business is don't ask, provide, and then you may ask. It's give more than you will always ask for. And so, my first exposure to Vyral was when you sent me a package of books after attending a conference. And I was blown away. I was just like, oh shoot, they just gave me like $40, $60 in free books.
$65 to be exact.
Yeah. And it was and there was a cover letter that said, hey, hope these will help you. These have been really important to the way we approach our business. Let us know if you have a call or if you want to chat. And I got to sit on the phone with you for 40 minutes. I said, that's the type of business that I want to be affiliated with. That's the type of business that's in line with my mission. And so it was just a very, very easy decision for me to make. I didn't really think about the finance.
Did you read the books?
I did. I'm still working on both the No BS and
so I sent you 3.
Yep.
One was a book that was written over 20 years ago called Permission Marketing by Seth Godin.
Yep.
I think more relevant today than ever.
Yep.
You have Utility, which was written a few years ago and is about making marketing so good that people would pay for it. Right? Which I think the box I sent you fits that.
Yep.
Right? And the third book was from one of my mentors, Dan Kennedy. is more about like how to position yourself versus just brute prospecting.
Yep.
Which of those three books would you say? I know you're finishing them, but which of those three books really kind of maybe resonate with you?
Permission marketing was the first one that I got through, and just from the very first the first couple of pages, I was like, wow. And if I remember correctly, that was the one that was 20 years old.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I was like, wait a second.
That was written in 1999.
Yeah. And it's still, I think it's even more timely today. That, you know, it's so easy to end up on somebody's email list and then have to spend so much time trying to unsubscribe that you want people to be approaching you to say, hey, I want to be a part of your email list. I want to see what you are. And that's kind of the same concept that I've been pulling out of the positioning book. Is it's in line with your personal brand. It's set yourself up so people want to call you, and they've already given you their permission to send them stuff. So they're not going to dismiss you when they see it. It was a very eye-opening approach. In contrast to, you know, if you think back to how we started the conversation, when I started, I just said, no fear, we're just going to market to whoever it is. And now, like I said,
which is fine, but now you're really thinking in terms of like, how do I really build a list of permission, which is a very valuable list.
Exactly. It's the people who want to hear from you, and those are the people who are that much more likely to pass business your way or work with you, or just generally, like I said, recommend you.
That's great, man. What tips would you have for an agent at your level, or business stage? I don't say that's the wrong word. Business stage. There's different stages of business, right?
Right.
At your business stage, what would you recommend to an agent getting involved with this? What do they need to know to be successful?
Recognize the value of your time, and don't be afraid to compromise money for your time. And so I think if you were to ask me, you know, my approach to spending on my business up to this point, I've spent a lot on my business starting out. And I think a lot of that has given me ideas on what works, what doesn't. And you have to do that when you're starting out. But it also gives you perspective as to how valuable your time is. And I always like to tell people, no amount of work is worth your sanity. And ultimately, you can't be the master of everything. And as much as, like I said, I like the idea of
trades and the master of none.
Exactly. And I love the idea of doing video. I'm an ideas guy, and I recognize that. I'm like, okay, idea, video, let's do this. How can I incorporate this with a newsletter, this, that, the other? And I started researching what are the avenues to be able to do that. And then when I came across Vyral, I was just like, wait a second, they do it all for me. And it's only going to cost me $500. Well, if I quantify my time at, let's say conservatively, $100 an hour, then it's going to take me 5 hours to shoot the video, edit it, put it into a template, and hopefully get it out. Oh, and edit my database to make sure that it's appropriate for the right people, and then keep track of that. And then also go back through and look at who all opened it and track all of those metrics. That's going to take me way more than 5 hours, just the editing alone. And so the thought of, okay, so my time's worth this much. They're going to make it that much easier on me. And they're the professionals who do this. This is their product.
9 years of counting, hasn't changed.
Yeah. And so I just look at it and I go, that's a good investment for me. My time is worth more than that. Or rather worth more than what it would take me to do it myself. And so when you're starting out, don't be afraid to spend money in your business. I think that's something that people don't say very often. I mean, it's been a high risk, but even higher reward situation for me. So that, and then I would also just say, you know, grow your personal brand, because your personal brand, your professional brand are always going to be married together. And no matter what community you live in, whether you live in a town of 55,000 like I do, or you live in a city of multiple millions of people, your personal and professional brand are always going to be married together. So invest in that and invest in yourself.
One thing I have to say, Brad, if you've been paying attention to kind of what's going on in the real estate industry with disruption and discounters, and being maybe held hostage, if you will, from like online lead generation services where you're really learning like a referral business where it's all from something like Zillow. You have a business that will stand the test of time, and you're not held hostage more or less by any of the lead providers.
Right.
Because you have a direct communication, a direct brand with your database.
And like I said, if you can position yourself that you get people calling you, you find you'll get a lot more enjoyable experience as a real estate agent too.
I'm sure.
Like I said, I mean, the people I always enjoy working with the most are the ones who seek me out to work with me. It's the ridiculous Zillow lead that I get that ends up being a pain in the butt. Yeah, that is the opposite end of that spectrum. And so I'd much prefer to be working more and more of my business with the people who are seeking me out, who I enjoy working with the most, as opposed to pursuing the white whale that is the online lead that everybody and their brother is competing for.
That's great. Brad, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Awesome. We'll go and end the interview right there.